Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick, and today we are doing another how to build a fleet tutorial. Now, today, obviously, we are doing the Necrons, and the Necron fleet is one of the weirdest fleets to build because not only do you have a very limited number of ships to work with, but all of your rules function in many ways in reverse to the rest of the game. It is highly recommended that you go back, look at my rules overview, look at the actual videos involving the Necron ships and how they work, because you are literally riding lightning with Necrons. Everything about Necrons is all about killing your enemy as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible. You do not want to lose a single ship. Your only disposable craft are your escorts, and they themselves are very, very expensive. So, bearing all that in mind, let's talk about the Necrons. So first things first, we're going to look at our fleet list. We only have access to a single fleet list. There are no other ones in the official game. And also recognize that this rule set was made when the Necrons really didn't have any lore. They were basically, at the time, just robotic Tyranids. So a mysterious unknown race that came around killing people, only they aren't bugs, they're Terminators. So, let us begin. First things first, mind of the machine. Necron fleets, just like their armies, are comprised of a horrifying array of unthinking machines intending of only filling their Catan masters' ancient plans for conquest. Because of this, Necron fleets have no fleet commander in a conventional sense, which affects their fleet in the following ways. First things first, leadership is determined normally for Necron fleets except the ship carrying a sepulcher. See below, automatically receives LD10. So you have normal leadership in the Necron fleet. Now, obviously, this does not apply to modern lore. Bear this in mind. This is actually the great elephant in the room with Battlefleet Gothic, which is we have never seen an up-to-date set of rules for them. Okay, rerolls. A Necron fleet may purchase rerolls, but they are purchased by the fleet as a whole rather than be considered fleet commander rerolls, which means if you destroy the ship with a sepulcher on it, you still get your rerolls. Fleet gets one reroll and can purchase extra rerolls at the cost shown. These are actually pretty cheap for a fleet that is so expensive. One extra reroll is a mere 25 points, and two is 75. Now, talking about our ships, you have a single tune ship option at 500 points. You can upgrade, give it a sepulcher at 50. Your fleet may include up to 6 size class harvest ships, and can have up to 3 shrouds. Your size are 275, and your shrouds are 155. Your fleet can include up to 12 Jackal Raiders and 12 Dirges. Notice how every element of this fleet is limited. You have limited access to all of your ships. All of your ships. Your maximum number of cairns happens to be 6. Your maximum number of size is 6. The number of shrouds is 3. And you can have 12 of each kind of escort. So we are very heavily limited. But then again, your ships are so expensive that you're not going to be playing a rational maxed out game at any point in a rational world. I mean, unless you want to do that. I've never actually calculated up what the maximum number of points to field is in a game for Necrons, but it would be an interesting thing to have a maxed out Necron fleet go up against any other fleet that can go up that high. But let's move on to the actual construction of a fleet. So you always do 1,500 point fleets because that is the tournament standard, or at least it was back when the game was played more regularly. Right now, Adepticon works with 1,350, which is basically one less ship. I will still go with the 1,500 point standard, partially because it's what I'm used to, and mostly because I find it's a more fun point value to play at. I find 1,300 or 1,350 to be arbitrary. So, the big question when you're building a Necron fleet is, do I bring a tomb ship? Because a tomb ship doesn't actually cost just 500 points. It costs 775 points, because you must take at least one size to take your Cairn tomb ship. Alright? Now, there's a lot of good reasons to take a Cairn tomb ship. Namely, it's the most powerful ship in the game. There is no other ship in the game that is not at risk of being destroyed in a single round of fire from the cairn if it gets a lock on, with the only exception being the Orc Hulk and maybe a Ramilly Starfort. So The question you have to ask yourself is, am I going to concentrate my firepower into the tomb ship, or am I going to distribute my firepower across smaller vessels? So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to make a fleet with a tomb ship and a fleet without a tomb ship. The next question you have to ask is, do I want to bring Shroud? Now, this is a pretty contentious argument throughout the Necron players. Some people view Shrouds as useless. Some people view them as invaluable. Personally, I love Shrouds because I'm going to actually go down to the rules and break my own rules for a moment because of a couple of very important rules here. Remember that Necrons, aside from your tomb ship, if you take a Sepulcher, okay, get normal leadership. But succeeding at your leadership is critical for Necrons. It's only a 4-hit cruiser. This is a problem, obviously. But it has a very, very powerful lightning arc at strength 10. But right here are the reasons why you want to bring them. As long as it is not crippled, the Shroud will never activate orbital mine or grant the enemy bonuses to command checks. And if it is uncrippled, the Shroud gives you an extra +1 to command checks when enemy vessel is on special orders. So instead of the simple +1, your fleet is getting +2. That is a huge amount. It means that if you rolled poorly on any ship and you got leadership 6, so long as your enemy is on special orders, they are on leadership 8, which is very, very, very important. Yes, it means that you have a 155-point ship that you cannot allow to be destroyed or crippled, but it means the rest of your fleet is functioning in a better manner. So personally, I am pro Shroud. Now, if you want to go all out, murder everything on the board, maybe not bringing a Shroud is an option. Anyway, let us continue to actually building the fleet. We have stated that we are going to start with a tomb ship. So, if we're going to bring a tomb ship, we have to bring it, pay the points. And if you are taking a tomb ship, there is no reason to not bring a Sepulcher. Now, the reason being, the last thing you ever want to deal with is your massive investment not having leadership 10, and the Sepulcher itself has a very powerful ability. Okay? The Sepulcher has the ability to cause leadership damage to the enemy. So, the ability to hurt the enemy's leadership is very, very important. Now, admittedly, you cannot be how do I put this? It is not a common thing to use, but it is a very useful thing to use. So let's see if I can actually get to those Sepulcher rules really quickly, so I can explain to you why it can be very handy. Sepulcher. Only utilized by the largest Necron vessel in the fleet, carrying a Sepulcher automatically gains a leadership of 10, but if the Sepulcher is used to attack one enemy ship within 20 centimeters, it makes a leadership check, and then if it fails, the crew loses a permanent leadership. Okay? So down here, the specific rules: a ship attacked by the Sepulcher, take a leadership test. If they pass, the captain cracks heads and restores order. If it has failed, the ship's leadership is permanently reduced by 1. Now, in a one-off game, this can be situationally useful. Kind of shrugging in that regard. You can only use the Sepulcher when the ship is not on special orders or crippled. So, also, very critically, ship may not use special orders until after the end of the next turn, including brace for impact. So, that is useful in a one-off game. But really what this is important for is in campaign. If you start damaging your enemy's leadership, you are harming their ability to progress in the game and make their ships better, making it a far more important tactical weapon. So bear that in mind. I'm sorry, not a tactical. It is a strategic weapon to be used. But getting back to the Necron and building our fleet, we have our Sepulcher, which means our Terran Tomb ship has leadership 10. We need to have a Scythe Harvest ship as its requirement, so at 275. Now we are just over now halfway through the building of our fleet. We're 825. We have in the 700 of the amount of room we have left, or is it 600? Regardless, yeah, I can't do math today. Anyway, I like having in this particular fleet a second scythe because that means we have a really solid backbone to our fleet. Okay, we have 2 scythes minimum. That means we have really good firepower to deal with incoming enemy ships. I will be bringing a shroud because I do like having that kind of leadership security. Now, when it comes to escorts, the Jackal and the Dirge are both good escorts. People tend to kind of shit on the Jackal because it's so big and so expensive and doesn't seem to do that much. People forget that the Jackal still has a very potent weapons battery. And the portal is not actually that bad. It's actually really effective at taking out enemy escorts. So bear that in mind. So Strength 4 Lightning Arc is really good. And so is that portal when you're trying to either harm enemy ships that have already been damaged or destroy enemy escorts. So in this particular fleet, we're going to take Dirges, though, because they are a simple, hyper-fast escort, and they're reasonably inexpensive for a ship class that we can actually afford to lose in a battle. So that is plus 240 points for 6 Dirges. We are now at 1495. That is our very first 1,500 point fleet. That is a Cairn Tune ship, 2 Scythe Harvest ships, 1 Shroud, 6 Dirges. This will compete against anything in the game with incredible effectiveness. Just remember that Necrons are a finesse fleet. Despite the fact that they have the firepower to destroy anything, you have to avoid losing your cruisers. Now, you can probably absorb the loss of a Shroud, but absorbing the loss of the Scythe, especially not the Cairn, it's something that you have to bear in mind. And absolutely remember that you have to treat your vessels like they are porcelain. You have to make sure that they aren't in arcs where the enemy can focus their entire fleet's firepower on them. So be very careful. Your points are very top-heavy in this fleet. But if you can get and maneuver into the right position, you can effectively delete an enemy vessel per round without much of a problem. Now, caveat to everything I said. I have used this fleet as a bum rush fleet to great effect. In the very first round, I have taken my Dirges, gone all ahead full, and placed them in my enemy's deployment zone, behind the enemy fleet, shooting at their ships with a Strength 12 Lightning Arc. And that's usually enough to force an enemy ship to brace for impact on round 1, which can affect the entirety of the rest of the game. Also, if you're feeling really silly, do that with your Cairn. Hope you roll a really, really high number for your all-ahead full, and you're suddenly right in your enemy's face, blasting them with a great deal of firepower, or even better, you're behind your enemy, and making the maneuver to be able to shoot you while your scythes move up to attack them on a flanking maneuver. Now, we're going to build a non-tomb ship fleet. Now, we are relying in this particular fleet on our scythes. Our scythes are where our real firepower comes from, but we also have a little more freedom to play around maybe with bringing some jackals. So, first things first, we're recognizing something. We cannot take a sepulcher, so we're not even bothering. So, we have 275. I'm going to take a bare minimum of 2. Oops, that's a bad number. 275 plus 275. That's our core of the fleet, 2 sides. Okay? Oh, another thing, I don't recommend squadroning your scythes. It does work very well, but I like having the more flexibility, and they're powerful enough to function on their own. So, we have 2 scythes at 550. That's really nice. You know, we have these 2 really powerful ships. We can actually take 2 more. So we have 4 scythes. We're at 1,100 points. We can then take a Shroud. And look at that, we're right back where we were. We can immediately take, if we wanted to, 12 Dirges, and we will have a more maneuverable and a little more flexible of a fleet than the one that we had before. So, 255 plus 240 points, 1495. Now, we are susceptible somewhat Okay, 2 leadership problems, because we're not taking any kind of reroll. And we have other weaknesses to this fleet. But let's say we go back and we don't want to deal with shrouds. We are a shroud denier. So we have 550, and then we're going to take a 275. Okay, so we have 3 shrouds. This time we're going to take 6 jackals, and we're now sitting at 1,125 points. We can take, if we wanted, 6 dirges. We're now sitting at 1365. So we're in a kind of a weird point zone. We can reduce the fleet by 1 dirge and throw in a shroud, but we determined that we are a shroud denier. So let's actually take away those dirges, and we're going to put in another side. 1,400 points. That gives us... Now, actually, it gives us a unique opportunity. We can take, if we want, 2 more jackals. That way we have 2 squads of 4 jackals as opposed to 1 of 6, which is more flexible than a single squadron. Or we can take 2 extra rerolls into our fleet. That covers up a lot of our problems in regards to leadership, but we'll have a 25-point deficit. So this is where the flexibility comes. For a perfect 1,500-point fleet, 2 additional jackals make us a perfect 1,500-point. But you have a lot of options, even in such a small fleet. Ultimately, though, all of the fleet rotates around the presence of scythe versus the presence of cairn. And with this, you have your options. You have a lot more choices. You can take a scythe, a cairn, and a whole mess of escorts. And trust me, that's a really effective fleet. Just be aware your leadership may suffer if you don't take your shroud. All right, thank you all so much, everyone. I'll see you all again in the next video.